I'm going to show you how to sculpt an eye. I just roughed this head shape in, and part of successfully sculpting the shape of the eye is getting in the basics of the skull and the framework around the eye first. So here you can see that I have put the brow ridge in, the edges of that's a little far back, but the edges of the eye socket right here, and they curve around and come underneath to the cheekbone, which is called the zygomatic, and you have some gap right here in between where the eye is going to go and the bridge of the nose, so that the eye is back under the eyebrow, the brow ridge, and it kind of lines up with the cheek in a slight diagonal right there. You also notice that I have laid in some mass of clay that I'm going to shape into the eye right here. It's a sideways oval shape inside the eye socket area. So the more stuff that you set up before you start shaping the eye itself, the more form and structure of the head that you have to work with, the more successful you're going to be when you actually get to sculpting the eye. I want the eyes to be not too close together. They're about as wide as the nose. Okay, so right here I'm going to measure that and make some marks, and the eye is the same on each side and the same amount of distance in between right there. Okay, so that's the nose into there, there, and there. Okay, so now I know that everything I do over here is going to be able to stay there, and I won't have to change it and move it over because I realized that I sculpted this eye too close to the nose or too far from the nose or whatever. All right, so I added the little node right here. That's going to become the tear duct, and then I start drawing. Okay, and the thing about the eye is that it's a straight line here, almost right up to the inside top corner of the iris, and then it curves, and then it's a long, almost straight curve on this side. In other words, it's straight here, curve here, straight here. A little bit curved, but mostly the curve is right here. Okay, and on the bottom lid, it's the opposite. It's straight here, big curve right here, and then goes up. And the lower lid tucks it up under the upper lid. Okay. In fact, that looks like I need to lower that upper lid just a little. And I'm adding a little clay because it feels to me like maybe some volume was lacking right there with that oval that I laid in. So I just added a little bit more, and I lowered that line at the same time. Okay, so now you can see that the lower lid line stops right at the upper lid, and it's almost like a parallelogram right here. 2 short sides, 2 long sides, like that. Then I'm going to carve out some of the clay in between the eyelids so that the eyelids stick out a little more than the eyeball. Okay, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, like the thickness of a paper clip or the wire of a paper clip. And now you can really see that shape. Okay, now I make sure that the lower lid is also carved out under the upper lid so that the upper lid really looks like it sticks out more than the lower lid. Now, this still looks too wide from here over to here. It's not spherical enough, so I'm going to take off some on each corner, the outside and inside corner of the eyeball itself, but I'm not touching the eyelid. A lot of what you think of the eye is really the muscles and the tissue around the eye, and that is under here. What happens is there's a lot of tissue that fills in. It really depends on the person. Younger people, you see less of the eye socket and more tissue. Also, older people have more of a bag right there. Okay, like I'm going to draw it for an example right here. It would look like that. And if you're really older, it could sag even lower than the eye socket like that. Okay, but we're going to do more of a younger person, and so I'm going to just fill that stuff in and I'm going to leave a little bit over here of a shadow from the tear duct. You would see just a little shadow of the eye socket, and that bottom part of the eye socket is called the infraorbital margin. That means the lower edge of the eye socket. Orbital means eye. Okay, so now we have that laid in. The other area that you frequently see a lot of tissue added is this top corner right here. So if the person is real gaunt or, you know, skinny, maybe they have a deep shadow right there and they don't have much extra tissue underneath the edge of the eye socket, but most people do. So I'm going to just add a little bit right here. Okay. So I'm being careful not to hide the shape of the eyelid. I'm protecting that, but I'm blending that little tiny coil of clay into the edge of the eye socket right there. So it fills in, takes away some shadow right there. The biggest area there's going to be a shadow is right here in the upper inside corner. And even that just depends on the person. But in general, there's more shadow under there. If I turn the head this way, you can really see the shadow there. I do want to see a little shadow right here where the edge of the eye socket curves down. But the skin, depending on the person, can look like it just turns into a wrinkle right there. You know, crow's feet if they're older. If they're younger, it at least stops sort of at the base of the lower eyelid. Now for the iris, that's the colored part of the eye. That is a circle that the top part tucks under the upper eyelid and the bottom of the iris rests on the bottom lid. This clay is very fresh and soft, so it's a little bit of a challenge. One trick is to let this set up a little bit so it's firmer. It's easier to add small changes and details if it's a little bit firmer than what I'm doing here. But there you can see the basics of the circle of the iris. Okay, take the tear duct out just a little bit more so that it's sunken in. I'm carving around the outside edges of the tear duct tissue and the upper eyelid, lower eyelid, just defining it a little. And I'm making sure that you can see a difference between the eyelid and the eye bag, that meat or tissue under the eyelid that fills in the base of the eye socket. Okay, leaving a little bit of the orbital margin showing right there. Everyone has at least a slight shadow value right there, even little kids. Okay, now the eye has the pupil, that's the black part in the very center, is sort of opposite the iris. The iris has the lower part touching just barely touching the lower eyelid. The pupil has the upper part of the pupil just barely touching the upper eyelid. Okay, so there you have the very, very basics of the eye. And from this point, you would just refine it. You would maybe, depending on the person, you would take out more hair to give it more shadow. You might extend the crow's feet here to go on out. You might hollow this out more. One thing you do want to do is add an eyebrow, which generally goes along the edge of the top of the eye socket. You see why the eye socket is so important. A lot of things depend on it, but sometimes it goes a little bit above the eye socket over on this outside corner. Okay, so now here's what you see. A little triangle right here of the outside corner with the tissue right there, and the eyebrow right above it. I'm going to add just a little coil of clay, the mass of the hair right there. The inside corner of the eyebrow stops about where it lines up with the tear duct right here. It doesn't go all the way to the center. So I'd put one here for that side. So you have a space in between, okay? But this is the basics. Tune in for the other videos that show the basic rough end of the head before you can get to the eye. Don't even try to sculpt the eye until the basics of the skull are in place around the eye. And then another video showing the nose and lips and ears. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click like. Thank you.